It started with a scream. Grainy phone footage, shaky hands, a girl on the pavement being pulled by the hair. Her school bag strewn across the asphalt. Moments later, police sirens, swarming parents, a crowd forming like thunderclouds. Off to the side, two teenage boys are led away calmly in cuffs, their names withheld. Their status revealed later. Recent arrivals, placed in the area under an emergency asylum scheme. Then, silence. The next day, headlines didn't mention the girl, they mentioned the mob. Thug riot rocks school town. Far-right agitators bring chaos to Yorkshire. No context, no outrage. Reporters missed the cries of parents, the ones shouting, "They attacked our children," while council officials slipped out back doors and radio stations switched to smooth jazz. Footage spread anyway. TikTok, Telegram, Facebook groups watched it again and again. The shove, the fall, the scream, then the crowd, then the fire. By dusk, a line of riot police faced off against ordinary citizens in high-vis jackets and work boots. Angry mothers held signs reading, "Save our kids," while beer cans rolled on burning tarmac. A banner hung from a lamppost read, "You let this happen." They said it was a misunderstanding, a teenage squabble, a non-threatening altercation. That's what the police called it in their carefully worded press release, a PR-crafted shield over a truth the community already knew. But eyewitnesses tell a different story. It happened just steps from the school gates. The girl, 13 years old, in uniform, alone, was followed by two teenage boys. They weren't from the school. Neighbors say she turned them down, told them to leave her alone. That's when they cornered her near a bus stop, shouted something in a language she didn't understand, then pushed her down. One pulled at her clothes, the other laughed. She hit the ground hard, hit her head, and didn't get back up straight away. A dog walker intervened, shouting. The boys ran. Inside 20 minutes, ambulances arrived. She was taken to hospital with a concussion, a fractured wrist, and bruises along her waist. The family was told not to speak to press, but her mum did. With tears in her eyes, she said, "My daughter just wanted to go home. Now she wakes up screaming." Local parents say these boys had prior warnings. School staff had raised concerns. One boy allegedly harassed other girls just weeks earlier, but no action was taken. Council sources later admitted, off record, that because the boys were asylum claimants, disciplinary steps were sensitive. Online forums lit up with fury. Telegram groups shared warnings. They knew. They covered it up. Some even claimed the council told teachers not to escalate matters that could cause racial tension. This wasn't a one-off. It was a crack in the dam. And when they tried to patch it with lies, something far bigger broke loose. Two boys, no known guardians, no documents anyone can verify, and yet they were placed into a South Yorkshire school zone without a single parent in the community being informed. No announcement, no warning, no right to question it. They arrived under the so-called Safe Haven program, a Home Office policy funneling migrant minors into the UK's most overstretched councils. These are boys over the age of 16, but under the radar of adult tracking. Emergency housing is the cover, council placements are the vehicle, and schools, just another checkbox in a system that treats children like data points. A leaked internal memo from the local housing authority quietly admitted it. Risk of social tension, keep placement details off public record. Hidden in plain sight, because the uproar was predictable. They knew families wouldn't accept strangers with unknown pasts sharing school corridors with their daughters, so they kept it quiet. The scam runs deep. Taxpayer money flows through a pipeline of NGOs and legal aid firms promising integration services. One charity receives £830,000 annually to supervise less than 100 minors. No performance targets, no behavior accountability, no obligation to consult communities. Private hotels converted to migrant hostels get £200 per night for claim. Legal advisors earn bulk fees per placement. The only people not profiting? The parents losing school places, the children sharing classrooms with potential threats, the local taxpayers footing the bill as crime reports climb and social cohesion collapses.
Ask yourself, safe for who? Because it's not your kids they're protecting, it's their careers, their payouts, their silence, while you're told to just accept it or be called racist for asking why. He didn't throw a brick, he didn't burn a flag. All he did was ask a question. Why were two strangers with no school records or background checks placed near his daughter's classroom without a word of warning? For that, Jack Morley, forklift driver, father of two, was arrested in front of his children. Days after organizing a peaceful community rally, Jack woke to pounding at his door. Police in stab vests entered with a warrant. His online posts, screenshots of local council documents, questions about migrant placements were branded racially inflammatory. He was cuffed on his lawn while his 7-year-old cried behind the curtain. No charges have been filed, but the arrest made headlines. They labeled him an extremist, a promoter of hate, but attendees at the rally said otherwise. He stood on a park bench with a loudhailer, flanked by mums and grandparents, and calmly said, "Britain has always helped those in need, but this isn't help, this is deception, and it's our kids paying the price." He wasn't alone. Across town, another father who tried to get answers from a school board had his job threatened after HR received concerns about his social media. When did asking for safety make you a criminal? When did being a parent mean you had to stay silent while institutions gamble with your child's life? The truth is simple. Once you speak, you're no longer a voter. You're a threat to the narrative, and they'll come for you to prove a point. The government lit the match. The people struck back.
It started with a rumor. One of the boys had already been released. No charges, no court date, just quietly let go. The parents heard it first, then it spread through WhatsApp groups like lightning. Bring banners, bring numbers, tonight. By sundown, over 300 people gathered outside the school gates. Some came from across the county. Grandparents, young lads in high-vis jackets, mothers pushing prams, gripping placards that read, "Protect our children," in black marker. The police arrived before the press did, shields raised, radios crackling. They didn't come for the truth. They came to contain it. Tensions snapped just after 8 p.m. Officers created a wall. Bottles were thrown from the back of the crowd. A flare lit the night sky red, silhouetting the outlines of dads locked arm in arm at the front. One shouted into a megaphone, "We want the names. We want the truth." The response? Sirens, batons. 4 protesters dragged to the ground. Not a single asylum coordinator, school official, or counselor showed their face that night. Drone footage from above captured the scene, a working-class revolt. People didn't come to loot, they came to be heard, and when no one listened, they roared. Social media exploded, raw, unedited clips of pushing, shouting, crying. Yet by midnight, mainstream news said little more than far-right protest turns violent outside school. No mention of why. No footage of a 13-year-old's bruised face. Just silence. But for those on the ground, this wasn't a riot. It was the sound of a community breaking through the wall they'd been screaming at for years. A reckoning, long overdue. The riot made headlines. The girl didn't. Not a single national outlet printed her name, quoted her parents, or showed her wounds. But the moment the protests turned heated, the media had everything they needed. Screenshots, aerial footage, mugshots from the night. The story was already written. Far-right agitators stormed town center. There was no mention of what started it. No reference to the 2 asylum placements, no interviews with the families whose children had been targeted. The attack itself was described at most as an alleged incident, buried 4 paragraphs deep and often left out entirely. Legacy broadcasters fell in line. Rural extremism is on the rise, claimed one BBC anchor. Another segment described the town as a testing ground for hate.
The people who marched were labeled as thugs, conspiracy theorists, and dangerous radicals cloaked in community concern. Meanwhile, independent journalists who tried to share footage of the initial altercation or interview protesters found their YouTube accounts restricted. X accounts were flagged or suspended. Shadow bans swept through Telegram groups, all under the guise of hate speech protection. A side-by-side scan tells the real story. Government-fed headlines on one side, raw mobile clips on the other. Fathers chanting, mothers crying, flames in the background. It wasn't hate, it was heartbreak. But in modern Britain, when truth threatens power, it doesn't get debated, it gets scrubbed, censored, and rebranded. The state media doesn't report reality, it edits it. And when truth becomes inconvenient, it's simply redefined as hate. It wasn't just Yorkshire. It wasn't just one school, one girl, or one night of rage. Since March, at least 19 separate councils, from Kent to Leeds, from Bristol to Blackpool, have faced protests over the same issue. Silent placements of unaccompanied migrant boys aged 15 to 17 into schools and communities without a single word to the parents who send their children there. In each case, the pattern is eerily familiar. No ID, no history, no vetting shared with staff, just a new name on the register, cleared by a quiet directive from above. Teachers told not to ask, governors instructed not to alert parents, to avoid panic. Parents call emergency meetings, councils stall, government releases the same line, recycled. It's a safeguarding matter and details cannot be disclosed for legal reasons. But safety for who? Because the ones being kept in the dark aren't offenders, they're families, they're children, and they're being told that concern alone is now a form of prejudice. There's no central coverage, just a patchwork of boiling points, each treated as isolated, unnewsworthy, irrelevant. But zoom out, and the truth appears in the shape of a map littered with angry questions, broken trust, and near-identical outrage. If it can happen here, says one father from Lancashire, it can happen anywhere. And it already has. It's national. A hidden crisis stitched into local corners where fear grows, trust erodes, and the silence feels more coordinated by the day. My daughter is afraid to walk home, and they say I'm the bigot? That's what Tom Singh, a second-generation British Sikh from Doncaster, said through clenched teeth after his 10-year-old came home in tears for the second time that week. He joined the protest the night it happened, not for politics, but for his little girl. The mother of the girl who was attacked hasn't spoken since the crowd swelled outside the school. But 3 days prior, quietly in her kitchen, she told a local vicar she hasn't slept for a week. Every time a door shuts, she jumps. Her voice was hoarse. On the table was the unopened letter from Child Services, not asking about her daughter, but offering her emotional de-escalation support. A teacher, who asked to remain anonymous, admitted what most suspected. We were told to accommodate cultural sensitivities. Boys are not to be disciplined in front of girls. Certain behavior issues were framed as trauma responses. Staff were silenced, unless you wanted to be labeled problematic. This isn't the cropped headline image they fed the public, that of angry white mobs clutching flags. No, on the ground, the truth is richer and more damning. Caribbean grandparents lighting candles at vigils, mothers in hijabs holding "Protect Our Girls" signs, teenagers scrawling chalk messages along school roads, safety before silence, truth before fear. It's not about race, it's about respect. It's about who gets protected and who gets ignored. And the people finally rising aren't extremists. They're exhausted, grieving, and done being lied to while their children carry the cost. They thought it would stay local, another angry town, another headline buried by Monday morning. But they pushed too far, and now the backbone of Britain, the workers, growers, drivers, and healers, is pushing back. In Lincolnshire, a farmer named Ellis opened his fields for a rally. No fees, no permits, just a handwritten sign. This land belongs to those who fight for it. Hundreds came. Small business owners set up tables, raising cash for the assaulted girl's family. Nearby, truckers staged slowdowns outside migrant hotels, blocking access roads during peak hours. A nurse in Birmingham spoke anonymously. Migrants are being housed in old NHS properties. Staff are told not to ask questions. It's chaos. We've had incidents, but we're gagged for community harmony. Another teacher, fired for leaking school placement details, helped launch a network where whistleblowers could speak safely. It spread fast. People hung Union Jacks in corner shops and homes. Local Kids First signs appeared in cafes, bus stops, chip vans. Telegram channels ballooned overnight. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. Organizers, coordinators, patriots with a plan. This isn't a riot, it's a revolt with roots, a rising from the fields, the trucks, the back rooms of pubs where British voices were once dismissed as outdated. As one speaker at a gathering in Devon said, "We're not fighting migrants, we're fighting the system that replaced our voice with contracts and excuses. This is not hate, this is survival." They traded safety for slogans, identity for votes, law for lockdowns, and now they ask for our trust after selling off our streets, silencing our voices, and leaving our daughters to bleed without justice. This isn't about migration, it's about betrayal. Britain's crisis isn't who entered the country, it's who abandoned it. The councils who lied, the media who whitewashed, the leaders who hid behind bureaucracy while children were broken in silence. You can't import safety, you can't outsource justice, and a system that protects schemes over schoolgirls is a system that deserves to fall. In the slow light of truth, we see it clearly. Girls walking home with eyes over their shoulder, fathers penned behind barriers by riot police, news anchors stammering through choreographed lines, families dressed in black, heads bowed not just in grief, but in disbelief. They will keep telling us to sit down, to shut up, to stay civil while they burn what's left of the moral fabric holding this nation together. But if we don't rise now, we may never protect our children again. This isn't hate. This is defense. This isn't